on our YouTube channel. So yeah, so there we go. So without wasting much time, let me go straight to the key points that I wanted us to point out. So Liz, welcome very much. Esther, Patrick, Boga, Anthony. If you have any questions, please remember to have them at the end of the session, so that at least you can have a interactive session whereby we get to learn from you as well, because it's in asking is when we get to learn more. So the two scenarios that will be required for Bitcoin to go to crash or to go to zero are two. So basically, the first one is that in the event that there'll ever be no demand for Bitcoin, basically no one wants to buy Bitcoin. That maybe could be a plausible event to make it happen that it goes to zero. So as you can see over there, this can only be possible when we enter into a fully digital era with no existing cash and banks. So that is one condition that that ought to happen for Bitcoin to go to zero, whereby nobody wants to buy Bitcoin. And why is that? Of course, with something better than Bitcoin having zero transaction fees and low transaction time, that is in terms of milli or microseconds. So what you're saying here is that there needs to be something better than Bitcoin that is far much superior than Bitcoin for it to go to zero. So meaning, you can see over there, that way no one will no longer need Bitcoin. It is like throwing away all the computers with a new one. I'm sure most of us remember all those early models of PCs or other monitors that they had very long extensions on the back. Today we have very slim, thin screens that no one really wants to care about those all the competing or rather even hardware drives or other CPUs. So that is the same thing we are talking about here. In the event that Bitcoin will there'll be something far much superior than Bitcoin. So just like the way we don't need all computers, we don't need all phones, that is what now will happen. Of course, is it possible? I believe we know. I mean, everything is changing every day, but as of now, nothing we've seen that has come close to that. So the other reason is we are not able to buy Bitcoin. So in the event that no one is you're not be in a position to buy Bitcoin, that possibly can cause Bitcoin to go to zero. And how can it happen? This can happen when all miners or rather validators, these are people who maintain the network, give up on mining, and there will be no one to confirm your transactions. Another problem that can bring that about is if governments completely ban Bitcoin use and exchange. And of course, it reminded me when I was preparing this a quote I think I shared back in 2018 by one of the key people we learn a lot. He's called Andreas Antonopoulos. This was his quote in terms of government completely banning Bitcoin exchanges that basically putting a shutdown to Bitcoin in terms of its operation. And this is what he said: control is an illusion. And maintaining the illusion of control with the illusion of power is the illusion. I don't know whether you're getting that. The bottom line is technologies like Bitcoin is not allowed. They simply never asked for permission. They existed despite government control. Historically, attempts by governments to control technologies have proven again and again to be utterly futile. In short, it's like you can never control such technologies. People have to people have to work with them. They have to work. You have to embrace them. That's now. So that tells you the aspect of Bitcoin being banned completely is not plausible. So those are the two key scenarios that actually will enable, or rather will be ripe for Bitcoin to go to zero. So I thought to extend the question further. So why it cannot go to zero? I mean, let's look at the points why it really cannot go to zero in detail. So the reason number one is that Bitcoin is a revolution. Bitcoin is a revolution. So Bitcoin is not an investment. or in a stock or a commodity. It is an investment in a revolution that puts an end to fiat currency. That is now what you need to take from this particular session. We actually in the it's called what I think earlier we used to call this Bitcoin 101 digitalization shift. These were now fiat currency is being digitized in a global scale. So Bitcoin is a revolution against the banking system that is flawed and corrupt in the last 100 years. That is, of course, we're talking about now about the banking system that is fully much controlled and rather it's in the hands of the US dollar, the dollar reserve. The central banks have the power to print money at their leisure. And in fact, the dollar has lost about 94% of its purchasing power since 1913 today. That is now why we talk about Bitcoin being a revolution. Let's dig further deep in terms of detail, because I said we are looking at facts here. You're not talking about hearsay. We're looking at facts on why Bitcoin may crash to zero, or why it cannot really go to zero. And remember, Bitcoin is just the first cryptocurrency that is most valuable. We have more than 12,000 cryptocurrencies, but of course, all of them follow Bitcoin. Lawrence will be coming to the news later after this, and you will see why Bitcoin is really important in terms of cryptocurrencies. When it coughs, everybody they say what everybody catches a cold. So that is what Lawrence, I think, the news will be sharing. So let's look at this particular screenshot I took. By 2018, the dollar value was almost half it was in 1990. The following table shows how much the dollar has fallen each decade according to CPI inflation calculator. This is in the US. So in 1913, Bitcoin was US dollar was at $100. The first inflation measurement. That is, of course, it was backed by gold. If you so wish to go down that history. By 1920, it was at 197. It actually it had gone up by 197, meaning there is more money that is being it's in circulation. That is by end of the World War I. By 1930, it was at 175. That is the Great Depression. So you see, the value of dollar is as you see it here, it's like going up, but actually it is the opposite. By 1940, it was at 142. 1950, 240, that is at the World War II, that is the second inflation. By 1960, it was at 299, less inflation from recessions. 1970, it was at 386, increased inflation from deficit spending. This is where I think if you go back, even in Kenya, this is where you could extend the $1 for, I think, was it 37 shillings or was it how many shillings? And then 1980, it was at $794. That is the value of basically $100, and that was now the end of the gold standard. So what it meant that if they let this go, it could keep on going up and up and up and up. But now they had to double back down. So by 1990, it was at $1.3. Reaganomics. That is where, of course, Reagan is the one who put the end of gold standard. 2000, it was at 1.7222. Expansive monetary policy to fight over 2001 recession. 2010, it was at $2. Expansive policy, and so you can see we moved from $100. It kept on up and up and up, and of course, once they removed the gold standard, it doubled down to 1.3. Now we are at 2.5. So that's how much the dollar has lost value. And I saw this particular screenshot by another guy called Dan Held. Actually, you can see over there. He's been in crypto for 8 years. I mean, these are the first people who kept educating people about Bitcoin back then. So he says all reserve currencies eventually will fall. A Bitcoin standard may be closer than you think. So this is what we're talking about. So look at this table. Since 1450, we had the Portugal currency as the as the global reserve, and it lasted for 8 years. Moving forward, Spain took over from the 1500s, and it lasted 110 years. That is what the Spain currency was the global reserve. And mark you, such, just to digress a little bit, nobody teaches these things these days. You have to actually, I don't know if you go to a master's class or something, and I actually doubt whether they do teach such things, but we're here sharing with you. Netherlands was the next in line from the, I think, at the mid 1600, and their currency was the global reserve for 8 years. That is 1640 to 1720. France then took over from 1720 to 1850. We are talking about the global currency reserve. And then Britain, that is the UK, took over from 1815 to 1920. It is now 105 years. US is what is now, that is now what we are on right now. And of course, you can see it will not be forever. It has to end. And what is the next alternative? And I'm sure you guess right. So the other reason why we think, of course, we are talking about why Bitcoin cannot go to zero is, of course, number one is, of course, Bitcoin is a revolution. And then secondly, we are talking about now its increasing adoption. So let's look at the number of addresses that we had back in 2018. You can see over there, back in 2018, we had about 26 million wallet addresses. That is back in 2018. And at the same time, around that time, there were about 5,000 cryptocurrencies. That is in 2018. Fast forward to today, November 2021, we have where we at. Blockchain, so we are looking at blockchain.com wallets. Of course, the key thing is that we are at about 70 million wallet users as of this month. Actually, as of the end of March 2021. So, of course, you can get this from this website called statista.com if you want to have a keen look. So, you can imagine from how many wallets, 26 million wallets in 2018 to now 70 million wallets in 2021. How that's like 3 times the growth. And that's why we are talking about increasing adoption. We're not, it's not hearsay, these are facts we are presenting. So let's compare now internet comparison versus Bitcoin. I'm being biased on Bitcoin because it is the key cryptocurrency that we see that has stood the test of time. So the following graphs and consideration are taken from a blog post by a guy called Chris McCann. He was comparing about the growth of internet users with Bitcoin. So look at, if we zoom into 1990 to 1995, for internet compared to, also you're comparing 1990 to 1995, and then 2013 to 2018 cryptocurrencies. So on the left side of what you're seeing, these are the numbers, internet numbers. I think we are at about what? I think we're about 4 billion, or is it? Yeah, I think about 4 billion users of internet. But in 1995, it was actually, I mean, it was less than 100 million. But the graph kept growing time and time. So what does it mean? You can see it is a gradual growth. Now let's compare it now with crypto users and internet. So the red one is the same graph that I showed you that I showed you earlier. The blue one is cryptocurrencies. So you can see it is actually more or less similar to the way internet is growing. And of course, all of them are digital. It's basically web. That is what we're talking about. So you can see we are actually tracking quite closely with the early days of internet. If you think cryptocurrencies are going to follow a similar trajectory as the internet, we look like we are at about 1994 compared to the internet. That is where we were like less than we're not even close to 100 million cryptocurrency or rather Bitcoin wallet users. So that's where where it is. So another example maybe to compare is the website growth, because website is one of the applications that was built upon the internet. So you can see the numbers from 1995 all through to 2015. It took a similar trajectory. So if you zoom into 1991 to 1995, that is around here. This is actually the first box. The growth of website compared to 2014 to 2017 in the growth of crypto tokens, that is basically Bitcoin cryptocurrencies, has a similar scenario. Hope we are together. So this is actually what I meant, what I was talking about. The blue one is cryptocurrencies. The red one is a total website. So you can see it is basically following the same trajectory. So adoption is basically there. It is happening right in front of our eyes, but of course with a lot of cycles. So we are in 1994 on this comparison. For the last comparison we look at, which is this one, the total number of internet companies which received funding from 2014 to 2017 compared to the number of internet startups that got funding from 1991 to 1995. So think of internet startups being funded, and think of decentralized applications that are being to talk of the IDOs, the ICOs, all that. This is what we're talking about. More and more blockchain-based companies are being funded, as you can see over there. So it's basically the similar trajectory. And of course, in the next couple of years, we're going to see a whole new difference. So in conclusion, as I summarize this particular topic, Bitcoin is a revolutionary asset class, a new cash system without intermediaries. It is deflationary and scarce. That is what we've been sharing all through. Bitcoin supply is fixed in by maths, by code. It is not without problems, for sure. In fact, it has the limit of scalability, which developments are still trying to solve with the Segwit and Lightning Network, which are actually being worked on as we speak. It is a real threat to hegemony of cryptocurrencies such as the US dollar, euro, etc. This actually was confirmed 2 weeks ago by Hillary Clinton, who said that cryptocurrencies are a threat to the US dollar. I think we have that on our, if you do follow our channel, this actually is a proven fact. For this, you will see many articles and characters trying to associate Bitcoin with scams and illegal activities. Of course, this is now a narrative driven by the big corporations to try and slow down its adoption. So the only real problem for Bitcoin could be a cryptocurrency which, with the same decentralization, the same network composed of millions of nodes, the same scarcity and better technology, therefore more scalable. That's the only thing that we're going to be like looking at for Bitcoin to go to zero. Something more better, more energy consuming, less energy consuming than Bitcoin. But for now, there is nothing that exists. And even if it was created today, it should compete with over 12 years of Bitcoin demonstration of not, of course, reprehensible security. It has never been hacked. That is all I'm that's trying to say. Not that when scams or hacks occur in Bitcoin, in the blockchain world, they are always phishing, scams, or third-party hacking. The Bitcoin blockchain has never been hacked to date. That is what we are talking about, and that is what any other cryptocurrency that is coming up that would want to go head to head with Bitcoin has to, of course, be better than all this. Whether we're going to see that, we don't know, but we'll of course be here to keep track of that. So I hope that that answers you. That basically gives light on the fact that it's highly unlikely for Bitcoin, of course, to get to zero. Other than it's going to keep growing stronger, bigger, and of course stepping into the new standard of the world global reserve currency, which is now what you call the Bitcoin standard. How and when that will happen, we don't know, but of course it is somewhere around the corner. That, I think, ends my session. Let me send the hosting back right to Lawrence as we take a look at the news that happened this week. Of course, there's been exciting sentiments in the market. So look forward for that. Thank you, and see you at the charts.
Okay, great session, Louise, and I hope we are all learning. We are all adding to our cup of crypto some knowledge. Of course, you've seen there's very less possibility of Bitcoin, of course, going to zero, because I don't think there's any government who will come and say Bitcoin is totally illegal. China did that, but while they did that, let's also not forget that China is the second biggest Bitcoin holders in the whole world. So they're banning something they have in store. So if you follow them, of course, you're going to be on the losing end. So very great session, Louis. Of course, also by you giving us a comparison of internet, web development, and also funding in terms of where crypto is. And like I always say, this is the early days of crypto adoption and blockchain technology. So you can imagine we are way early, because internet, I think, currently is over 30 years old. So you can imagine we are 12 years old in the crypto space. We still have so much we can do and so much we can benefit from if we totally understand what is happening. So without wasting much further time, let me just go straight to what made news this week. And of course, I'll start with what Louis has just mentioned about Hillary Clinton, her sentiments on Bitcoin. This was 2 weeks ago, I think last week, but one. And of course, Hillary Clinton says crypto could undermine dollar as world reserve currency. Louis talked about the world currencies and how world currencies have been changing. Of course, I've shared on the chat room that the dollar, it's on its 99th year as a reserve currency. So we don't know how long it's going to take before we have something that will replace the dollar as a global reserve currency. So, of course, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton weighed in on the rise of cryptocurrency during her virtual appearance at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum, claiming that they could undermine the role of US dollar as the world reserve currency and destabilize the nation. Of course, we had senators like the senator from Wyoming who came and said, of course, retaliated on Clinton's statement. And she said she doesn't feel like really cryptocurrency is a threat to the dollar. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen in the near future. So from there, let me go to my first news of this week. And of course, it's exciting to see how Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is growing. And my first news, of course, I'll talk about Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is the world's most efficient value settlement network. So like Louis has said, the only way Bitcoin can go down, one of the ways, is having another cryptocurrency that will come and beat Bitcoin in terms of work, 12 years growth, and of course, the value it's added. So of course you can see, according to on-chain analyst, it shows that Bitcoin is the most efficient value settlement network, settling more than $60 trillion in the transfer volume to date. Settled over $60 trillion in terms of volume to date. So this shows you that Bitcoin is growing gradually, just like internet, the way it grew. Of course, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are growing gradually. So we don't know in the next like 5 or 10 years how much Bitcoin will have transacted and how much in terms of volume transfer it will have done. So this shows you that Bitcoin is still growing. So a very small chance of it going back to zero. To my next, of course, news is that investor confidence in Bitcoin rises as number of old coins spent hits 35-day low. This tells you people are not selling their Bitcoin. People are not selling their Bitcoin. They're buying more than they are selling. And of course, in the last 35 days, people have been holding on their Bitcoin. So Bitcoin average spent output lifespan has returned to a relatively low level of 35 days after peaking in its late October. ASOL trends higher as older coins spend, taking profits during corrections. Declining ASOL is a signal investor confidence is improving and fewer coins are spent. This according to Glassnode. This is one of the companies that does analysis. Glassnode, they really give very good analysis when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So of course, you can see there that of course, Bitcoin, as investors, more investors are coming on board. Of course, this shows you that people are believing more and more in Bitcoin. To my that news, of course, now Louis talked about when something sneezes, of course, you can catch, of course, a cold. So let's go to one of the biggest banks in the whole world, and Goldman Sachs and other Wall Street banks are exploring Bitcoin-backed loans. We know most of the time we were told that, of course, fiat currency is backed by gold, but in 1971, the gold standard was abolished, and we know fiat currency is not backed by anything. So, of course, you can see banks are looking at now Bitcoin being a hedge, or Bitcoin being a backing to even some of their loans. So, of course, Goldman Sachs is among a handful of top-tier banking institutions in the US seeking to take Bitcoin as a collateral for loans. So if you have Bitcoin, of course, you can go and give it as a collateral for loan. So moving on swiftly, of course, some good news over here from the chairman, Gary Gensler of SEC, Security Exchange Commission, who says Bitcoin competes with the US banking system. And of course, Gary used to teach cryptocurrency before he was appointed in MIT. He has very nice sessions on YouTube. You can watch Introduction to Blockchain and Cryptocurrency. You can follow him. He's a very amazing teacher there. I've watched some of his clips. So Gary Gensler said on Wednesday that Bitcoin was created as a reaction to the US monetary system and its worldwide consensus. And just, there's something I want to quote over here, because I read this and I was like, I wish people can totally understand what Gensler is talking about. So he said, we layered over our digital money system about 40 years ago with money laundering and various sanctions and regimes around the globe. We layered that over a digital currency system called our banking system. So Gensler said in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote this paper in part of a reaction of an end of the grid type of approach. It's not surprising that there is some competition that you and I don't support, but that's trying to undermine the worldwide consensus. So you can see he's talking about the banking system and how Satoshi Nakamoto, of course, the pseudo, the guy who came up with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin white paper in October 2008 did. It was a reaction against the banking system. And of course, coming from Security Exchange Commission, he is not against cryptocurrency. What he is talking about is, can we have a way of control so that people don't also fall for scams? Because if something is not regulated, there's a higher chance of people, of course, getting into scammed big time. So let's go to UK, and of course, UK digital service tax targets cryptocurrency exchange. So Britain crypto exchange will levied with a 2% tax that is likely to be passed on investors, warned Crypto UK. So of course, this tells you more governments are looking at Bitcoin and cryptocurrency also as accepted, because you cannot tax something you don't believe in. You cannot tax something you don't believe in. Let's go to India. And of course, India is one of the countries that has been talking so much about Bitcoin, and they had outlawed Bitcoin at some point. They came up with some they also came up with some crypto rules, but now there's a bill that they have given. So Indian government confirms that its new crypto bill is not the same as the old one. I think the old one was more harsh. So the one they have, we are waiting to see what is there. so that you can understand what they want to table. Moving on swiftly to Japan, of course, like we always say, there are three types of digital currencies. We have tokens and stablecoins, we have cryptocurrencies, and we have CBDCs, which is central bank digital currencies. And Japan Central Bank is urged to speed up its digital yen project. So this is something we're going to see going on forward, that a lot of companies, a lot of governments will come up with what we call central bank digital currencies. It's just changing their currency from what it is, money you can hold and touch, to something that is digital. You cannot see, you cannot touch it. So in Africa, of course, again, it's good to see that Tanzania has begun preparation to launch its own central bank digital currency. Nigeria already they did, China already they have one, we have e-krona, we have Petro, and many other digital currencies that will come as we continue. Moving on to Thailand, Thai lawmakers urged to approve tourism crypto to entice digital nomads. So of course, the Tourism Board of Thailand is looking at Tatcoin is coming closer to fruition. What they want to do is that they want to allow people who are going to Thailand for tourism to be paying, of course, their tourism fees in cryptocurrency, or what they are calling Tatcoin. So I think this is another digital currency that is coming from Thailand, but basically it's it will be rolled out more so to people who are touring Thailand. And onto other news, of course, this is one of the best exciting news I think we've gotten this week. We know that Jack Dorsey, the founder of CEO, tendered his resignation on Twitter. And of course, he is not resigning from Twitter and going, just disappearing from the scene. He has come, of course, to the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space. So Square is one of the companies that Jack owns or started. And of course, it rebranded after he resigned, a day after he resigned, to Block. It's called now Block, as in to focus shift on blockchain. So basically, there was a time, I think early this year, we had what we call Bitcoin conference. And he said if he was not working on Twitter, he will give all his time to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And you can see, of course, this has happened a day after he resigned, that, of course, Square has rebranded to Block. So Block is a new name, but our purpose of economic empowerment remains the same. No matter how we grow or change, we'll continue to build tools that help increase access to the economy, says Jack. So Jack resigned from Twitter and basically is coming fully to the crypto space. He's coming fully to the crypto space. And one of the things, again, maybe I can also say is that what they did is that they took all their 5 companies, that is Square, Cash App, Tidal, and TBD5456695, and they put them together and they named it as a block. So it will be working as one block. So let's see what they have in store for us as time goes on. And then, of course, you've heard a lot about NFTs, you've heard about DeFi. And it's good to see that there's a study that was given that 8.3% of polled South Africans now own NFTs, non-fungible tokens. A further 9.4% plan to buy. A further 9.4% plan to buy. So as we continue to learn, it's good. Like last week, we shared some of the lingo that is used in the crypto space. And I think I did explain what NFTs are. That summarizes the news that we had this week. Of course, I've just taken just a few of what made global news captivating. So with that, I come to the end of the session today. Louis, do you have any parting shot before we call it a day?
So for me, I think there's somebody has asked about what is the difference between CBDC and M-Pesa. So it's only that CBDC is a central bank digital currency. It's a form of a centralized blockchain. M-Pesa is a mobile money platform that is based on the fiat system. That is the Kenya shilling system. So that is a difference. So they are, of course, they're all digital, but of course, one is a platform. The other one is an actual. It's like it's parallel to like the Kenya shillings. So I think that is the only question that I saw. Otherwise, I'm good. It was glad to host you today. Thank you.
So always good to host you. Always good to talk to you. Remember, we are always here every Saturday at 10. We'll be sharing this link early so that you can share with family and friends. Let's keep on learning. Wishing you a great weekend ahead. God bless you. God bless your families. God bless your businesses. Have a great weekend until next Saturday. And you can also suggest any